playing the part of Demi Moore today with the voice, so I hope nobody minds. On to the most important thing. We have 3 incredible women who will be sharing their journeys to refereeing and what it's meant to them, what it looks like, feels like, sounds like, what are the challenges, what's the fun and the frustrating, and how can we help support them, and how can we find others who may be interested in the same pathway here on Women in Soccer or in other corners around our country. Natalie Simon made history as the first Black woman in the U.S. to earn a FIFA badge. That's pretty badass, Natalie. Pretty badass. Natalie. Thanks for saying it right from the get-go. Tori, first woman ref to ref an MLS game in 20 years, also did some FIFA qualifiers. Pretty badass. That's pretty badass. Shevah Rezaee. Shevah, you ref college and semi-pro games, and recently you became a movie star with Kelsey Grammer, and we'd love to hear more about that. So, if you don't mind, Natalie, if you could give us your pathway and what it is that you're finding in the space you're in now, we are all ears.
All right. Well, Brandi, thanks for having me. It's truly a pleasure and an honor. Growing up as a kid playing soccer, I was a huge fan of yours. So it's truly an honor to be here. But, you know, my love of the game started when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Louisiana, started playing soccer there. And I eventually made my way to Florida and continued to play out throughout high school and travel soccer and played throughout college. And when I got done with my playing career in college, I really wanted to find a way to stay close to the game. So for me, I tried coaching for a couple of years, and it was fun, but it wasn't quite the same as being out there on the pitch. So my assistant coach in college was a national assessor for referees, and he recommended I go out and give it a try. And being the kind of player that I was, I really didn't like referees coming up. I was pretty much a pain in the ass on the field. I got a yellow card almost every game. You know, usually in college around tournament time, like my coach would be like, Natalie, you can't get any more cautions, you know, like yellow card accumulation is a real thing, you know. So me being a referee is something I never envisioned in my playing career. It was like the last thing on my mind. But once I got out there and I took my first referee course, and, you know, as I've gone to different tournaments and done games, like I really fell in love with it. And so, you know, I've been doing it for about 10 years now, and it's gotten me here. It's been a long, long journey. A lot of heartache along the way, a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. I think one of the coolest parts about the game is just being out there with the players and just being a part of the game. So refereeing has kind of been my path to staying close to the game that I love, and that's given me so much.
That is excellent. I love it. What I also heard you talk about is just having allies, right? Your assistant coach said, hey, why don't you give this a try? I really believe that that's probably one of the most vital things for all of us, whether it's in the game of soccer, whether it's in business, whether it's in, you know, friendships, whatever. It's just to have that someone there as an ally to say, go for it, give it a chance. So that's really nice to hear. It's on you now, Tori girl.
All right. Tori Penso. Hello, everybody from Tampa, Florida, currently in Atlanta, Georgia for pro camp because soccer doesn't stop. I grew up in a soccer family. I have 2 older brothers who played the game. I wanted to play the game from a young age, and my mom told me I couldn't. She said it wasn't a sport for girls and that I should go to ballet instead. I'd get too many bumps and bruises on my legs. So I obviously took that to heart. And by the age of 10, I finally convinced her to let me play. And I played my whole life. And then, you know, time to get a job. My mom said, go get a job. And I said, all right, I'm gonna go to the mall or go here. And she convinced me, why don't you just go get a job where you love spending so much of your time out in the field? And I said, oh, interesting. So I signed up to be a referee when I was 14. And I fell in love with it. I really enjoyed just being out there on the field, being a part of the game that we all love so much. And it took me to ODP camp in Alabama. It was my first kind of trip outside of the state where I learned a little bit more about the profession and fell even more in love with it, that this really was a challenging discipline and you can refine your skill, but it's, you know, you never have a perfect game. And Unfortunately, I'm really drawn to that. the trying to have that perfect game. I haven't had it yet. Maybe it's in my future, but I've really fell in love with the game and played club. I went to Florida State. All of my bridesmaids played soccer with me. My husband is also a referee in MLS. So there's soccer on 24/7 in our house. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you ladies and to talk with you, Brandi, for sure. So looking forward to the discussion.
Appreciate that. All right, Shevah, let's hear your story.
Hey everybody, my name is Rezaee. I think around the age of 12 or 13, I called my dad to confirm. He was like, he had been reffing, I think, for 5 or 6 years at that point, and was kind of like, you need a job. So, and it was a very different time where at halftime they'd be like, oh my God, do you want some orange slices? They would share their halftime snacks with me. It was a good environment to grow up. I reffed, I think nonstop, kind of side for almost 17 years now. I took kind of a step back in college. I played at college, and then I went to law school at the University of Florida. Go Gators, Tori. And Tori played club at FSU, and I played club at UF. So I finished my schooling there, and I moved back home to study for the bar. There was a pandemic, so I'm at my parents' house, kind of sitting there and really like reassessing, being like, what has brought me so much joy in my life? And I think my entire life, all roads kind of led back to this. Like, it's been truly incredible, and I have so much to give this game, and I'm excited for the future.
So we talked about your pathway to getting to refereeing, from players and just loving the game and, wanting to continue to be on the field and the feelings that it brought you. But let's go a little bit further and talk about what's the pathway, the literal pathway to getting to the professional level. And what does that look like so we can understand a little bit better the rigor, and then we'll talk about the physical component of what that looks like after.
The pathway, it can look different for everyone, I think. And it's even changed in the time, like since I came up and when Tori came up, we kind of came up at different times. And I think now it's even changed even more drastically. I think what's coming up, there were certain key youth tournaments and events that you had to attend and you get selected to go to get seen and get visibility and perform well at a lot of these youth tournaments like Southern Regionals and then Youth Nationals. So those were some of the key events that I was seen at that gave me opportunities eventually to get into the profession. It was, a 5 to 6 year process of going to those events, performing well, getting positive assessments, performing well in the games. But I think the pathway has even changed a little more now to get to the professional ranks. There's game count, there's fitness requirements that have to be met at each stage. So.
Perfect. Okay, so just to ask a question about the process, and then you said the word assessment. I am dying to know what an assessment looks like. Like what's involved in an assessment? Is it positioning? Is it the calls you make? Is it where you're standing? Is it your interaction?
It's going to have your positioning. It's going to have your game management, your teamwork with the other assistant referees and the people on your crew, communication. It's gonna analyze everything, and of course, the big decisions in the game, the penalty kicks, the cautions, the red cards, those types of moments are going to get analyzed. But positioning, movement, all those things, everything is analyzed in the game.
Awesome. Tori, Shevah, what would you like to add?
I agree with Natalie, right? Everyone's path is a bit different. I was on and off the field. I have 3 little girls. And so I came and went in the professional ranks quite a bit. And, similar to players, it's about identification events, right? So we go sometimes and don't get paid at all. We sometimes go at an expense of our own wallets to go to some of these identification events to just have the opportunity to be seen and yelled at by parents and coaches alike. But nonetheless, sometimes we take a huge pay cut just to go and have the opportunity to be seen in hopes somebody walks by, right? So I don't think a lot of people realize that we do that just for the hopes of trying to climb the ranks. Southern Regionals is a great example. I actually mentored Natalie Simon at that event. And so at these events, a lot of times we have mentors who come and support and coach us through certain situations and might provide feedback at halftime to help us maybe make some small adjustments. In regards to the assessments, they're very detailed. Every one of our games in pro are assessed by someone, and we review each week with that coach or assessor. We go through all the KMIs, which is the key match incidents. That's red cards, penalty kicks, game critical match incidents, as we call them. And then we also talk about positioning, movement, because that's typically what leads to good decisions. But likewise, match control. How do we manage players? How do we interact with players? What does our personality look like on the pitch? And how is that received, really? Does it work? Is it effective, right, with the players? And then teamwork. How do we work together with our team? What did that look like, both in verbal and nonverbal communications? How do we get the decisions right on the pitch that needed to get right? So those are kind of what the assessments look like. They're very detailed, and you start them at a pretty young age. If you want to advance, you have to get assessments in order to get to the next level. And then in order to get to the next level, you have to get assessments on a higher level game, and so on and so forth. That's kind of what it looks like to climb the ranks. But each one of us has definitely had a different path to pro, if you will.
It seems like for the players that sometimes timing can be everything. You know, a missed opportunity here or maybe an injury there. And in terms of the regionals and the nationals, how many referees are, well, this might be too vague of a question, just like those are big tournaments. So there's a lot of referees that are needed. Shevah, have you had experience in the regionals and the nationals, and what did that look like for you? And talk about, you know, getting into the college game and what that's like.
Yeah, that's actually something that's more recent for me, but I do have a fun fact that regionals that I was at, Natalie got her call up to pro, and I met Tori there too. So that was super weekend, and then for her to get the call up was like incredible. Like I had never heard of anyone getting a call up straight to pro, so that was so sick. But she killed it. She
guys like high fives and do you do all kinds of crazy celebrations?
Oh, of course.
So we all clapped like really politely, but I was really excited for can't stress enough that what Tori has done is like so amazing, and also what Natalie has done is so incredible. Like they're achieving things and really paving the way for mothers and minorities and everything. So just a really amazing process. But I actually got my start at ODP as well. I think I was like 15, and it was kind of the first thing where they were like, hey, you're kind of good at this. Like, you should go to this tournament. And at 15, you get sent out to another state, you get flown out. Like, it's nice. You get a little dorm. You're just reffing. It's super fun. So it was like my first experience going away from home. And then I went to my first Southern Regionals at 20. And then I took a step back from reffing for like 7 years. And then last year I got invited to go back. I went to P Cup and President's Cup, and it's like one of those tournaments as well. And I would say like this is one of those examples where it's just like right place, right time, right person. Just walked by my field and was like, who is she? And asked my state, and they got my information, and that's how I got my invite into college. And that's where I'm like, it just shows like if I had not been, you know, moment, or if I had, you know, looked a different way, or anything could have been different. Someone walk by my field, they look at your field for 15 seconds.
It makes me draw a parallel between what I asked my players to do and what I was asked as a player, which was to be ready, right? To be ready to make the next play. And you do that through what you said, which is preparation. So again, tell everybody, it's not just like you show up on you don't go for a jog on a Tuesday and then on Saturday you're reffing the pros. Like, what's the physical commitment that's needed? Let's talk about what you have to achieve to be qualified to be in those environments.
We definitely don't run on a Tuesday to show up on a Saturday. That's for certain. I always tell all the kids coming up, it's a lifestyle. It's not you just go out for a jog anymore. The game's changed. That means our training needs to change to evolve with it. So we do a lot of high intensity. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I'd go out for a 3-mile jog and think that would keep me fit for the game. And that's not the case. We do sprints each week. We do strength training, high intensity training. I try and get in the pool to get relief from my legs once a week if I can, recovery is big, but I'm training 6 days a week, sometimes 7, depending on the game load, 2 hours a day of training. It's pretty intense. This morning I was at training at Pro Camp, and it's me and a bunch of guys. And I was joking with our sports scientists as we were coming back. I said, hey, I kept up with them today. I was like, they wouldn't even go. We did 1v1 sprints. And I was like, nobody would want to run with me because they didn't want to be shown up by a lady, And John, our sports scientist, was like, yeah, they got to work. I'm like, that's what I do every day, man. They got to do what I do every day. Right. So there's something to be said about putting in the work. And Natalie knows this very well. We're constantly showcasing to those that follow us on social, the work that we put into it, because the work is done off the field and out of the cameras, right? So that we're prepared for that moment when that opportunity arises, so that we're ready. But yeah, if you ladies want to share.
Yeah, Brandi, it's a grind. It's balancing a full-time job with the training. When I'm not training, I'm recovering or doing games. So it's every day it's something, and I invested personally a lot of money into my recovery and getting massages and orthopedics and doctors, and just to keep myself healthy.
I think that is something that you should put out there more, like what the referees are doing. Like, I think that would, I'd like to generally think that people are compassionate, right? And that they see hard work being put in, and they become more sensitive to, like, oh my gosh, this is not something you just show up for and you don't really care about it. I think that's interesting. Please put more out. Please share what you're doing, because you're going to inspire some people to run next to you, Tori, right? Run next to you or join you in becoming a referee, for the first time. So I think that's really fantastic. We talked about, so now you've done here's the criterion, here's the physical stuff. I mean, you say that you have to do the same work as your male counterparts. People would argue that would be unfair. Physiologically, we are different. How does that come across to you? What are your feelings about it? Now you step up to the line, Tori, and now people don't want to run next to you because they don't want to get beaten by the female. This is kind of a 2-part situation. We want female referees to be seen, but we want to be referees in the same right. Can we make sense of this landscape, and what is it? Should it look like, or what do you want it to look like as women referees?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's an excellent question, right? And it's probably something we're all struggling with, right? Because as referees, our best games are when we're not noticed, when we're not in the spotlight, unless the game demands it of us, right? So we don't really want to be seen. But on the flip side of that, to see a female working in this space, to see what it does to little girls in the stadium when I walk out there, it gives me goosebumps, I've got to say. I've got little girls who ask for selfies. They ask for autographs. By just being a female representation on that pitch, the fact that I can keep up with those guys at that same level and be seen as an athlete, it changes people's mindset. And to be able to do that and make people a little bit more open to what a referee might look like, I think is important. So, the question of, do we want to be female referees or just referees? I want to be both. Can I be both, right? Can I be not seen when I don't want to be seen, right? But at the same time, sometimes you wear a ponytail to show that that's out there, and be proud of the work that each one of us have had to put in to get at the levels that we're competing at. It deserves the respect, to acknowledge the differences between males and females, because like you said, there are physiological differences. There's psychological differences. My male counterparts have never had to run a fitness test on their period. I can guarantee you that, right? But we have, and that's just one of many things we've had to overcome, right? To get to the level that we're at. And there's so many things that we don't talk about that we just grind through, as Natalie said, to get there. And I think it's important to recognize that we're different. And many of us have had to try 2 or 3 times as hard as our counterparts to get there. And there's a certain nod that you kind of have with a lady at the same level as you. You know, when I work with my ARs, we just kind of look at each other, we're like, it's mad respect, you know, because we know what it takes to get here. So my answer is both. I want to be both.
Shevah, how about you?
To quickly, when you look up, like during a game, Brandi, even when you were playing and you look around you, like that referee is always going to be within 8 to 10 yards of like where you're at almost. Like they're always going to be there. And we don't have subs. So like to like we it or possibly like not, we still have to last 90 minutes as well, you know, like things are really, really tough. Our training constantly to maintain our fitness, and the players deserve that too, you know, like they deserve our best. And then I also agree with the like wanting to be both. Like I see Tori's pink nails right now, and we have ponytails and like long hair, and when we show up on the field, like sometimes there's misconceptions about like who we are and what we can do. And even though I present as like a female and my pronouns are she and her and all these things, like I don't know if you guys have experienced this, I'm called sir constantly. And it's not really offensive, but it's this like idea that the more masculine characteristics, when I step on the field and I put my shoulders back and I'm like, take that deep breath in and I'm like, this is my field. And I have to garner this respect now.
Yeah, no, Shevah, I'm with you. And Tori, you know, you echoed a lot of the sentiment. Me being a Black woman, like for me, I want people to see that, because like my life and my experiences are very different from, you know, my white counterparts and my, you know, other males that I work with. A lot of the things that the guys that I came up with would do on the field or how they would manage players, that wouldn't work for me. And I tried it because that's what I saw on TV. And that's what I saw guys that were, you know, moving up and doing well. I would try it and it wouldn't work. And, you know, as years went on and as I've gained more experience and I've kind of come into my own and I have my own personality on the field, like players can sense that, you know, and I manage the game with my personality and with what I have, you know, and I can't do a lot of things that the guys do. So it's actually more effective to just be yourself on the field, you know. But as a woman, I think it takes time to get that confidence and to find out who you are on the field. But for me, I think I really enjoy players seeing me for who I am. Like Tori said, like ever since that LA Times article, I have, you know, fans in the crowd saying my name, and it's a weird experience as a referee, but I know that it's inspiring the next generation of up and coming women that are going to be on the pitch as well. So
awesome. I'm really growing in my love of all these referees. I'm not going to lie. Referees used to be kind of like a dirty word to me. But actually, in times that I feel like I'm called into action to be the referee, I find that it's very interesting, you know, the times when I choose to make the wrong call to see what the reaction of my players are, you know, right? Because it's not always going to go your way. And I think that's really important. So this next section and segment is going to be called Fun and Frustrating. And there will be some more serious ones. There will be some more fun ones. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, speed round. Natalie, what's been your favorite game to ref?
Ooh, this one's easy. I would have to say that one of the biggest games I've done in my career was the Challenge Cup final last year. And I think that was the last time I had to referee Carly Lloyd. So she's also one of my favorite players. She's retired now, so I can say that. But she's always difficult to referee. But in that game, you know, I really enjoyed it. It was a fun game, competitive game, went down to kicks. And it was just a game I'll never forget because it was in Portland. I was freezing, went with long sleeve jerseys. And then by halftime, I had to switch to short sleeve because it got hot.
Okay. So I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
You said she's difficult to referee and now she's not playing. So we need to know why.
She reminds me of me when I played. Like I just played kind of like frustrated and angry. Even when things were going my way, I was getting calls. It wasn't enough sometimes. And she's very vocal and you have to engage because she's always the heart of any team she plays for. So, you know, you kind of have to engage and manage her throughout the game because if she's not happy, the other players it kind of spreads like a, you know.
So is your job to make her happy?
I think she just needs to be heard. Like some players out there just need to be heard and feel like, you're at least can lend them an ear. So I think with Carly, it kind of helped just to listen and to make her feel heard, for sure.
So I had a teammate by the name of Cece from Brazil. They're very tricky, super, super tricky. They will deceive you with a body shake or a ball movement, or even just like, they're very good at deception. But one thing they would do, like if Cece was getting upset and you gave if you just gave Carly Lloyd a thumbs up, like I hear you, would she be like, oh, would that get her more mad? Or would she be like, okay, she heard me?
That's not my style. I don't work well with like the sarcasm and things like that. Usually I can give a smile once I've had the conversation, but sarcasm isn't my style. But
Tori, your favorite venue?
Ooh, this is a tough one. There's a lot of amazing venues. And as the game continues to grow, it continues to amaze me. I will have to say I was just at the Nashville home opener for MLS, and the stadium, the atmosphere is electric. I might be slightly partial because my first MLS game ever was in Nashville as well. So I think it's won my heart a little bit, but they've done such an amazing job with bringing the Music City to life there. I think it really embodies the culture of that city. So it's not just about the fans, 30,000 of them screaming, but the fact they've been able to bring the culture in has been really amazing. So I'm going to have to go with Nashville's newest arena.
All right. Do you guys get more than a closet? Are there 2 referees spaces?
There are 2 locker rooms that are connected. So that is a huge win, because usually they say the men are here and they put the women down at the closet down the hallway. I think that's partial janitor closet usually. But this is 2 actual locker rooms and they're connected. So big win.
Awesome. Very good, Nashville. All right, Shevah, what's your favorite memory as a ref?
My first SEC game, when I stepped out on the field at Georgia, I was like, this is really cool. I felt really proud. You work really hard, and when those things come to fruition, it means a lot. So
give a thumbs up, and this is not a bad thumbs down. That's just no. Do people come to watch you ref? Like family or friends?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So it's like the players. Fantastic. Let's see. Tori, who's the toughest player you've ever had to ref?
There's a lot of those. There's a long list of tough players. I don't know that I could single one out. But you know what? I appreciate tough players because they challenge us in ways, right? So we talk about managing players is just like, a teacher manages the classroom. Everybody has a different personality. And there's some players you can be sarcastic with and that works. And there's some players you can't. And as you come up through the ranks, you learn what to say and what not to say. All that to say, I don't know, I could say one individual player is the toughest, but there's definitely a list of them.
Oh, Tori, way to go, Switzerland. Way to go. Okay, give me a player that is not playing anymore. And what was the toughest? They're demanding, they're in your face. What is it? Come on, give me one. Natalie did it.
I will say Tori's
will
the only
echo
person
Natalie Simon.
with a smile on her face. Have you seen pictures of her getting yellow cards? She'd just be smiling. Like, she's so charming. She just
smile.
This is amazing.
I do smile. A lot of time players know it's coming, right? And they're like, but it's my first foul. And I'm like, that's funny. That's
okay, I'm going to let you off the hook a little bit. Natalie, who is your favorite player to ref? So that could be can it be somebody that you're reffing now? I don't know your rules. I didn't know there was rules.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rules to this,
We have favorites.
Okay, so listen, if someone said to me when I was playing, who's the favorite player to play against, who's the toughest, I would say, like, listen, Linda Medalin from Norway was a bitch, but she was fun to play against because she was so competitive, right? I loved to wind her up if I could. And I would say that to her face. I don't know.
Brandi, for me, there's like a long list of players that I enjoy because they're just so creative on the ball. You know, there's some Brazilians in the women's league that you probably know that are really good and just fun. And when you're watching, it's like, wow, it's magic, you know. But there's quite a few players out there in our league. We have, I think, the best players in the world in the NWSL that just, I mean, every week you see spectacular soccer, and it's so fun to be out there and just to see it. As refs, we're like, in our heads, we're saying, wow. I promise you.
Okay, so here's a tough one, Shevah. Sorry that this just randomly fell on you. But we can ask everybody else too. What's the biggest call you ever got wrong?
Ooh.
And while you think of it, I'm just gonna say, listen, as a player, I've scored an own goal in the World Cup. So whatever you got wrong can't be as bad as that.
To alleviate pressure, I can go for this, Brandi.
Okay.
If that's helpful. Shevah, you can think about it, but mine's quite top of mind. So I had a match just this past weekend. And as referees, we don't like to make mistakes. And I made a mistake. Should have had a handball. Should have been a penalty for Colorado. I think it hits his shoulder. I have a little bit of a different angle, so I think it hits the shoulder. Unfortunately, VAR didn't send it down. And as a
That's
referee,
not your job. That's not your job.
But as a referee, I'm gutted, right? Because the score was 1-0 for RSL, so it would have changed it potentially. And so I hate that coming off the pitch. I have analyzed it quite a bit since. And how do we get it right on the field without needing VAR? Because that's our goals as referees. But that one was top of mind for me. I only have a couple mistakes so far in my 12 games in MLS. So I pride myself on trying to be as perfect as possible. But this one hit hard because it's the most recent. It's the one this year so far. So, and it potentially could have changed the game. So that's mine.
Morgan asked if you think you could have been in a better position.
Potentially, I'm in a good spot. I have a good look at it. It's a game of angles. So I am in an expected position for the decision. I think one step or two steps to my right, I have a better appreciation for where the ball actually hits him. So I'm a little bit of an illusion. I think it hits him up here. It really hits him more down here. And per the laws, if it hits you in the shoulder, it's not a handball. But it hits him a little further down. And I don't have a good appreciation for that. So,
Brandi, I've got one.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Kind of like Tori's, I think handling is just a difficult thing for referees. Last year, I think I just struggled with it and I got really frustrated with it. I had a particular game that I think is still haunting me a little bit. And I called a penalty kick for handling and it wasn't. For me, the arm was outstretched and it was actually close to the body. And the game ended up being 3-2. It was an important game. And, it's a hard decision. And if you're not in the perfect position, sometimes you'll miss it. And even then, if you do see it, it happens so fast. So that one is just something that I think I've struggled with. And I think I figured it out. I had a good one last week that I called. But I'm just taking it a game at a time. Taking it a game at a time because that game kind of haunts me still. That was the end of the year. So,
and they do, right? When we make mistakes, they live with us. They don't leave, right?
Yeah.
And that's the tough part about refereeing. But the best thing you can do is figure out why you got it wrong and how to move forward, because the biggest decision we have is the next one we're going to make.
Right. Got to make the next play. That's what we tell our players as coaches, and that's what we tell ourselves as players. So, I'm loving you more and more every minute, girls, because referees. That's what I want to call you, referees. Because I wrote down the words like this vulnerability, right? We all are vulnerable when we're on the field. It doesn't matter what uniform you wear, whether you're the referee, you're the opponent, you're the home team, you're the away team, you're vulnerable. And you're vulnerable as a human being. And I feel like, we haven't even gotten into technology, only barely, when Tori said it wasn't sent to VAR. And my honest to God, no fooling around, whether I win the game or not, I would rather not have VAR. Because as a player, I'm incomplete. And as a human, I make mistakes. And so will the referee. And in the big picture, over the years I'm going to play, is going to be a wash. I'm going to lose some. I'm going to win some. I'm going to get away with some. I try to get away with more. Like I always try to get away with more. And sometimes you get caught. Sometimes you don't. So I feel like the vulnerability that we have to, I would hope that everybody on this, that's in the audience, that's having the conversation, will remember the next time we go to the field or we have an interaction with someone and we talk about whatever it is we're talking about with the knowledge that we're all human, right? We're all human and we're going to do our best. I mean, I don't know anybody who goes to something and goes, I really want to suck today. I'm going to suck. It's going to be awesome. Okay. Another question. This is a tough one because it has a really rough word in it, but the idea of abuse, whether I think I see this, Shevah, you might be, and all of you are in good position to answer, but I think Shevah, because you're at what would be considered a lower level player than the professionals, you know, what are your mentors saying? What is the refereeing councils and assessors talking about when they talk about abuse of the referee, and what should you do?
Well, I have an interesting take on this, and it also answers this question. I was in a spring game at Auburn, or sorry, I shouldn't say where, but I was just at a spring game, and in the new offsides rule, there has to be.
There's a new rule.
Sorry, not new, like newer, not new. But it's changed in the past couple of years. So I popped my flag for offsides early, and the defender came over the top and headed clearly not reaching forward. And I was like, oh no, and I put my flag down and kept running. So then behind me, I hear just like 40 minutes of berating, like, hey man, what was the offsides flag? Like, what was that flag? Like, what was that, for like minutes and minutes and minutes? And I'm just like, and a lot of times, like, I would never and I would consider that a mistake in a way, but the call ended up on the field correct, but it was a mistake that I made because I popped my. But I think that kind of stuff in the game starts kind of at a younger level. So if we look at the USSF side and the kids and I think it's very different from when I was coming up, when people were handing me oranges and Capri Suns. Now I see, you know, somebody's mom yelling at somebody's, you know, daughter out there, like 14, 15-year-old. And I think we have to, like, just as your players, kids are learning, these referees are learning as well. And there has to be a space for them. Like, we didn't start as, none of us started as, you know, any, like where we're at now, obviously. Like, we have had so many years of experience, and the only way to gain this knowledge is through games and doing them over and over again.
Natalie, you may have also said something that I think is very valuable that we all remember as fans and parents and coaches, is that the game moves really fast. And the higher the level, the faster the players, the faster the ball. And the dynamic is just exponentially, just incredibly fast. I mean, my husband, who's been coaching collegiately for 37 years, says, I'm amazed how often the referees get it right. Because it's so hard. Husband. Yeah. I'm amazed by how often they get it right. But we have a tendency to just call out maybe once where you don't get it right. Like, why isn't someone yelling from the sideline, great call, ref? Like, why not? All right. Quick questions. Just blurt it out. Electric or old school whistle?
Oh, old school.
Old school.
Socks up or socks down, and why do you have to have them up?
It's a uniform.
It's professional. Yes.
Socks up all day. There's an illusion that occurs when your socks are up. I look a little taller.
I didn't think about that.
Okay. Favorite referee color?
Black. All black.
Red.
Black.
Power color.
What about the stripes? The stripes.
Who wants to be a zebra?
Hey, when it gets cold, can you wear pants?
Do soccer players wear
pants?
Pants?
Like athletic pants, like, you know, like.
You can't. No pants.
Tights?
No pants.
We've seen tights. Some people.
We're not ballerinas.
I wouldn't. I would rather just freeze.
I'm going to tell you right now, I am cold and I'm going to wear tights. And I can be tough wearing tights. I also did ballet at Tori. All right. How do we get more girls to be referees?
Empower,
Things like this.
encourage, support.
How about clubs make it mandatory that all players go to a referee course?
Yes, please.
So if you're a director of coaches on this platform right now, please implement that into your curriculum, just like I think every single player should go to a coaching course so they understand the dynamic of how to put together a practice, how to manage their teammates, whatever it is. So I think that would be one really great way for us. I want you all to know that you are welcome back anytime in Women in Soccer. I hope you all create a player card and that you belong to our family. You have a place here. We need you. And we want you here with us. And I would love to do part 2 because this could turn into a Netflix series. Oh my gosh. Netflix series. Because I really want to dive down into what Shevah talked about, which is the newer offside rule and handballs. Because honestly, I'm confused. I've been in soccer for 50, not quite 50 years, but getting close. And I can't figure it out anymore. So, and I don't know what level. Is it the same? Is it different? Help me out. I need help. So let's come back and we'll have another talk soon. Would that be all right?
That sounds good,
Happy to.
Brandi.